Eric Savitz. And if you've been to Silicon Dragon programs before, you'll recognize Eric as an excellent moderator, and I'm glad he's replacing you here. So Eric.
I'm taking over.
Yeah, he's taking over. Eric's going to be interviewing here on stage Eric Setton, the founder and CTO of Tango, and Thiru Arunachalam, the co-founder and CEO of Peel. Now, what do these two companies have in common? Why don't you come up to the stage, actually, Thiru and Eric. What do these two startups have in common? Anybody? What? Okay, Alibaba. Okay, let's hear from Eric about Alibaba and these two startups.
Thanks. We actually, all three of us have something in common. Wow. So just a quick 10-second explanation of that. Although I spent most of my career as a journalist, I now work for Brunswick Group, which is a large PR firm. One of our more recent accomplishments was we did a lot of PR work around the IPO for Alibaba. So Alibaba is something I've been spending a lot of time on lately. Before we talk specifically about Alibaba, let's talk for a few minutes. I'd like each of you to talk a little bit about the two companies which are doing very different things, and then we'll get to the thing that ties you together. So Eric, why don't you kick it off?
Sure. I'm the co-founder and CTO of a company called Tango. Tango has become one of the leading mobile messaging services around the world. We have over 250 million members in over 200 countries. Our main base is the US, where we have about a third of our members, but we do well in a variety of geographies like Europe, the Middle East, and Asia also. The previous panel referred to some of the messaging platforms in Asia, like WeChat and KakaoTalk and Line. What really differentiates Tango in the West is we take that type of strategy of putting together communication, where you can interact with the people that you care about, but putting it together with social networking interactions and content distribution to really build, I'd say a more modern platform that is able to capture some of the attention that social networking services can provide. We have about 210 people, mostly based in Silicon Valley. We've got a small R&D team in Beijing that we've had for the last 4 years, and a small game studio in Austin, Texas. And the messaging space is definitely one of the hottest spaces on mobile today, and I think we're very excited to be part of that conversation and to compete on the global stage.
Nice to see KakaoTalk go public at a gigantic valuation.
It is actually. I think just the last year has been tremendous. Obviously started with WhatsApp acquisition that really crystallized, I think, some of the values that some of these mobile messaging services have captured. But of course, there was a sizable acquisition of Fiverr. Line announced their plans to go IPO, and the merger of Kakao. So it's definitely a space that I think is capturing everybody's imagination in terms of what really is the impact that it can have. And you've got to remember that these apps are not apps that you download and forget about. These are apps that you're checking 20 to 30 times per day, where you're conducting your conversations with the people that are the most meaningful to you. And as such, because distribution mobile is so expensive, they're progressively becoming hubs for distribution. It could be digital media, it could be anything else. Obviously, commerce is already integrating with some of these messaging apps in Asia. So I think that this is something that is extremely interesting for us.
So let's shift gears and hear a little about Peel.
Sure. Hi, a smart remote app. It means it controls all your devices in your living room stack today. It also organizes everything that you can watch on your TV in a visual way. We have close to 90 million users. We're growing about 10 million users, new users every month. We think that we're really well positioned to explore into the future of the entire home. If somebody wanted to build an app that can control everything in your house, maybe it's smarter to start with something that works with your TV and your set-top box and things like that, as opposed to with thermostat.
So this basically takes the universally remote concepts, puts it on your phone, and makes it a whole lot easier.
Yeah, the most simplest way to explain it is a universal remote, so it can control everything. It also comes preloaded on Samsung devices and HTC and a lot other devices, and but it also understands what program choices you might have in your house, regardless of whether you have Comcast or others, and we're in 87 countries, the experience is exactly the same, so it's kind of like it lists down in a visual way. You can tap on an image and change channel and just start watching. You don't have to bother about dealing with the spreadsheet that you might get from Comcast or a bunch of different remote controls that lie on your coffee table.
So let's talk a little bit about each of your experiences working with Alibaba. Alibaba is in fact an investor in each of your companies. In fact, I believe they invested most recently, just a few months apart, actually, earlier this year. What was Eric? You had a long dance with Alibaba doing what was it was $280 million round a few months back. About the experience of working with Alibaba, how you came to connect with them, and also a little bit about the difference between having a strategic investor, particularly this strategic investor, as part of your as one of your investors, as opposed to a more traditional venture firm as an investor.
Sure. Our contact with Alibaba actually started because we have an investor in common in Jerry Yang. So Jerry was one of our earlier investors, and as the company was looking for different options and different potential partners to lead our next round, our Series D round, Jerry thought it was appropriate to put us in touch. And actually, we closed an investment very quickly with them. It was a sizable investment. They led a $280 million round into Tango. They invested $215 million of that amount into the company. Took a board seat, and have been very, let's say, very open and very present since then, and just available to discuss strategy and help us plan the things that are ahead. For us, picking Alibaba, we had the good fortune that we had a number of options, and picking Alibaba was really a way for us to kind of inherit a crystal ball where you can see into the future. In that, I think in a lot of ways, what's happening in mobile messaging is really cutting edge in Asia right now. I think the WeChat with Tencent, Line in Japan are really pushing the envelope of what's possible in the markets where they're so dominant and so present. And our approach to the market and our vision for the market is quite similar. You don't want a messaging app that just replaces what your phone can do, but actually you want to be able to not only feel closely connected to your friends and family members, but have fun on these apps by playing games together, by sharing music, by chit-chatting with people that you may meet on the service, and so on. And so I think that our read of the market was quite similar to theirs, and they've experienced that firsthand in seeing what the Tencent guys have done. Alibaba also has a messaging app in China called Laiwan, and so I think they've thought a lot about that space. And so we shared a common vision, but the places where we are strong are complementary, I'd say, to the places where Alibaba already has distribution, and so I think that they were interested in that.
So there is this interesting question about whether this was more about an opportunity for you to have a relationship with the largest player in e-commerce in China, or more about Alibaba, which has been making a series of investments in U.S. players, both in e-commerce and elsewhere, to get a new window into the U.S. market. I presume there's a little bit of both, but talk about how you see that aspect of the deal.
Yes, so I think in every good deal, it needs to work for both sides. And I think being the largest private or still independent messaging company, I think that we were an attractive opportunity for them because I think they were very interested in this space. I think for us, we definitely see the synergies between commerce and messaging, and so there's no better partner on the commerce front than Alibaba, and so that was very interesting for us. At the same time, being passionate founders, I think we really admired what the founders at Alibaba had done. Alibaba was still private at the time, and so taking the company that far is definitely a source of inspiration. I think there was also, just strong chemistry and a lot of cultural alignment. I think for them, another factor that may have contributed is that there are not a lot of Silicon Valley startups that actually have an office in China, and we've had one for the last 4 years, and I think because we travel to China quite frequently, both my partner and I think we're more knowledgeable is not a good term actually, but exposed to what's happening in Asia, and in particular what's happening in China. We have a lot of respect for that, and so I think that that came as I'm sure that came as a plus too.
So in Peel's case, tell us a little bit about how you connected with Alibaba and what you think they were looking for when they were looking at investing.
The person who connected me to Alibaba is sitting right there. He's one of our investors. We've been working with Alibaba for about a couple of years now, and we've had multiple rounds of investment from them. Some public, some we've not made it public yet. But for us, the choice, just like how Eric said, most entrepreneurs that raise money end up having multiple options to choose from. For us, the choice of Alibaba, at least for the most recent round, was just how patient they are. I mean, Jack Ma talks a lot about focus on consumers and focus on employees, and the investors will be automatically taken care, and focus on the long term. I recently mentioned this at a Wall Street Journal interview, which is, they don't just do the talk, they actually practice it, which is they create an environment where you could focus on the consumer experience and not rush to monetize. Peel does monetize its user base, which is, we let the TV studios actually drive tune-in and increase viewership and impact the GRP rating, because they can now advertise right on the remote control and let people actually change channel. For a show like Conan O'Brien, who gets about 800,000 nightly viewers, we could actually impact his show's viewership by about 10 to 13%, which is humongous for anybody in broadcast today. But that said, they helped let us focus a lot more on user experience, and they're very knowledgeable about metrics like retention, how many people are using the product, and things like that, and all their advice is very long-term focused. So I think our choice was mainly on how good the people were and how long-term they were focused.
So I think it'd be interesting to hear in both of your cases at the level of ongoing interaction you have with the management team. So there's another startup I know that has an investment from Alibaba who was talking to their CEO, and he mentioned to me that he was on the phone talking to Joe Tsai almost on a daily basis, that they were getting very active dialogue and advice from the team at Alibaba. And I wonder if that is the case in each of your situations. What is the interaction like with their team?
In my case, I don't think it's daily. Actually, it's not daily with any of the investors, but they are a little bit more operations focused, meaning they understand the business, but the interaction is not daily. But if I'm traveling to China, then send them an email if they're here. We talk about it. Our way, he was talking about setting up a China office. In our case, we actually acquired 2 companies in China because it's extremely important to have the Chinese talent build product for China. China is a very unique market where if we try to force fit the American product into China, it may or may not work. So,
and how large is your user base in China?
We are approaching about 100 million, and about 1/3 or a bit less than 1/3 is probably in China. Yeah, and China's the fastest growing market, like most apps. And So these and these acquisitions also came. Some of the companies got referred to us by Alibaba. So they make strategic impact, but I don't think they're involved in the day-to-day operations. In my case.
Eric, what's your interaction like with the team?
So I think for us it's as often as we request it, and I think that that's great. There's times that we need introductions that they can make, mostly to their internal teams, in trying to identify how to leverage the different types of products that they offer and what are ways that we can work together. In addition to that, I think that their leadership team has been very available, which is also wonderful. Our office in Beijing, they're based in Hangzhou, but we went to visit the Hangzhou campus a few times, and we're able to have very interesting strategy discussions. Fortunately for us, actually, our board member from Alibaba is based in the U.S., and so we meet on a monthly basis. But I think in our case, they're as available as we'd like them to be.
So I'm curious.
Last one.
Oh, yeah. We're running out of time. Oh my gosh.
Last one.
Okay. So I wonder if you could give us a little insight as portfolio companies for Alibaba about what you think their strategy is in regards to the U.S. There's been a lot of discussion about are they going to try and take on Amazon and eBay, and what are their intentions here. And there are, I think people do forget, there actually are a couple of English language sites they operate. Alibaba.com is in English, and there's a few others. So, but what's your sense of what their intentions are in regards to the U.S. market?
I actually met with the chief strategy officer. His name is Ming Seng, I think, and there's actually a talk that he gave it on it's there on, he spoke at Stanford Business School. They believe a lot in data. Apparently Jack Ma talks about this transition from IT to DT, meaning data technology. So they believe a lot in data. They want to create this massive marketplace of data where all the third parties contribute to it. Blue Kai, but at a much different scale, so they believe a lot in data. That is a stepping stone into artificial intelligence and machine learning that they were talking about in the earlier panel. But they are also into entertainment and banking and e-commerce and stuff like that. But I think data seems to be a very passionate thing for them.
Eric, what do you think?
I'm not sure I can comment on what their operational plans would be. I think better to ask them. In terms of investment, I think what's interesting is when you look at the investment positions that they've taken, I think what's been interesting to me is that actually a lot of these investments that they've made, be it in PL or Tango or Lyft, resemble the types of investments that they've received. When I think about the investment that they received from Yahoo, where it's a minority stake, but it's a sizable stake, and it's long-term focused. And when you think about the value that has driven to a company like Yahoo, that's pretty tremendous. And so I wonder if they're trying to replicate what they were able to do so well for their investor, and I certainly hope that we can do the same.
That's great.
That was terrific. Thank you so much. And before you get off the stage, let's get a photo op of these three.